time. It's time, I think. We're getting started on the final session here. How's everybody feeling? Holiday season almost upon us. Hope everybody's ready to have a peaceful and restorative time. And my thinking here is to help you create a soundtrack for those times in the form of a generative, evolving world of your own, but not unlike what we're hearing right now. And you just get these effects off the vocal. Yeah, had some fun just whipping this up, and it's kind of showing some of the techniques I want to explore, but don't worry, we're going to build something similar, maybe not identical, but similar from scratch together. So I've got, a bunch of these generative Max devices, but if you don't have them, you can follow along with any of the new step sequencer will work great in a pinch, or like basically any arpeggiator will do the same. But what I want to kind of get into is showing how you can create interconnections between these things as they continuously evolve and generate new patterns, but in a way that's interrelated and showing, some musical coherence as these different components interact with one another and evolve over time. So, yeah, I've got basically a very simple sub bass here with operator, which I'll recreate. And it's being generated with this pattern engine, which we'll get into, but this is designed to continuously generate at musical intervals. So not like always changing every single note, but changing, in this case, the pitch every 8 bars and the mutes every 4 bars. And everything here is being driven by this meld track, by these follow action configured MIDI clips, which are driving the transposition of everything else in the set, so that when the pads on the meld are transposed, everything else is transposed by the same amount within the E minor scaling key that's selected here, of course. And so that just ensures that these changes are interconnected in a way. And it's just kind of a different way of thinking about and approaching music making, because, I feel like there's a lot of pressure that people feel, rightly or not, to, produce tracks, that there's got to be like some kind of output in the end, some sort of commodity ultimately that will be the result. And I just think there are other valuable approaches. There's nothing wrong with doing it that way if that works for you. If you're a producer, obviously you have to think about things in such a way from time to time, but it's nice to explore sort of more open-ended approaches and formats. And I got into doing this because I wanted to create interactive, evolving installation work, which I've done a few times. In fact, I'll post a link later in the comments to this video where I did an 8-hour generative piece, not unlike this, but it's also been a way to sort of stress test my tools and ensure that they can continuously generate for long periods without issue. So then, yeah, continuing along, we'll rebuild this, but I want to continue this dissection. So this meld track is generating some randomization, which is controlling different components of the set. And then we have these breakbeats, which I'm going to wait and show you how those are getting used later, but maybe you can hear, maybe you can tell, maybe you can deduce. Little pulse engine generating these tinkly bits on the operator in between the notes of the bass, so that it's kind of interacting in a way. And then I've got this drift here, which if I shut up for a second, you'll hear it's going to start to play some chords when I don't talk, but it's me based on the notes extracted from my dialogue. So this is adding an element of interactivity that could be really fun too. If you do end up building something like this, if you have access to some of these tools, you can, you know, if you have any kids in your family, maybe you can get them involved on the mic and have their voice do fun stuff. Could be a unique way to connect with family and friends perhaps during this time. But yeah, if you're lucky enough to be able to do that. But yeah, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into a new project here, right? So it's useful to think about all of these little components as agents, right? So this term is used a lot in like AI stuff, but also just in the school of thinking around generative art. The concept of an agent is quite common, and it's basically where, you know, you have something semi-autonomous, autonomous or semi-autonomous that can kind of behave on its own. And when you have these sequencers or other ornamental tools that are capable of just generating MIDI notes, you can harness that in ways where they become agents, and you can have these agents sort of interact with each other in ways that I've made possible with some of the features of the Manifest Audio stuff. But yeah, welcome everybody. If you haven't already, go ahead and drop a line in the chat. Let us know where you're tuned in from. It's always good to get a sense of where people are at. So yeah, I really like to have this bass line sort of percolating along. So I'm just going to create a sort of dubby bass with operator. And I like to do all this from scratch in the live stream so you can all kind of see how it's done. I just, you know, set it to one voice and probably, I think I'm going to select this mode so I can get a little bit of FM character, and then maybe another parallel sine wave. And before I get too crazy, maybe we should hear it. So let me go ahead and grab my Pulse Engine. I'm sorry, excuse me, Pattern Engine is what I want to use here. And there it is. And while it's loading, I'll just kind of explain for those of you who haven't seen it before. Yeah, so I can just click the dice and randomize to a new pattern at any time. Of course, in the scale and key that it immediately inherited from live settings. But if I enable individually per parameter lane, so each step is comprised of these 5 parameters, mute, pitch, velocity, length, and tie, they can each individually or all together be set to this auto shuffle mode. And if I leave them all to auto shuffle every 2 bars, it's going to keep changing in a way that's not so musical. So I'm going to use the global interval, set that to 4, and just start from there. I'll come back to those settings in a moment, but that should give us something to work with as I sort of try and figure out this bass sound. But I'm going to drop it down a couple octaves, all the output, so that it's going to be more in a bass appropriate register. Okay, sure. Bring up the spread. And then let's try the coarse tuning on the... Add some velocity to that one so that as the velocity is modulating out of the pattern engine, it's going to impact this modulating oscillator here. Not going to get too deep into the weeds of FM synthesis today, but I do like to add this little bit of white noise texture there. Nice. Catherine Alexi in the chat. Welcome, welcome. So this is clearly, you know, not really enough on its own to be so compelling, but I think I do want to just add a little glide here so when the notes tie, they tie properly. And then I don't want them to randomize up to plus 24. They're kind of leaving bass territory there. So I'm going to say maximum pitch randomization 0 semitones. And we're going to see the pitch values of these dials only below 0. Okay, so that's keeping it more in a bass appropriate register as mentioned. I think I'll leave the mute and length every 4 bars. I think the velocity, let's have that randomized every 2 bars. And I can adjust the randomization amount for each lane individually, but let's just randomize it all by 77%. And let's set the pitch randomization to 8 bars. So we're going to have one melodic pattern that it's going to randomize to every 8 bars, but we'll get 2 variations of it. Every 4 bars, we'll hear different notes of that pattern because the mutes are changing. All right, so let's make it ambient. Let's get that pad going. I think it's time to get something a little bit, yeah, some kind of meld situation going on here. Let's go for the noisy shapes. I think I'll just stick with a single oscillator for now. And for starters, let's just get a single E2. Is that going to be too low? Let's see. Actually, I want this to be a 2-bar pattern to kick us off. And of course, I think we would benefit from having a chord applied there. And yeah, let's go ahead and just try that for starters. Okay, yeah, I like it. Let's go ahead and just dial in the amp envelope, give it a little bit of ambience. I'm going 7s on everything today, folks. That's the mood. Okay. Get it going through some of my reverb here. And then, you know, one of the cool things about Meld, of course, is the powerful LFOs it comes with. So I think this Wander with a bit of sample and hold maybe could be good. Let's try this and start applying it to some parameters. LFO1, let's go to the oscillator 1 macro and turn the retrigger off. And maybe get this going at a more musical rate here. Yeah. Okay. So now what I want to do, right, is, you know, as mentioned earlier, I want this pad to occasionally transpose. And I'm just going to duplicate this clip. And let's make this one 4 bars in length. And make the note 4 bars long as well. And duplicate that one more time. And this one's going to be 8 bars. The method to the madness will soon be revealed. Okay, so go ahead and rename 2, 4, 8. And then I'm going to go to my follow actions. And let's set them all to a 50% chance that they will play another clip in the group or play itself again. However, in the case of these two, I don't want them to change every 2 bars. I want them to also be 8 bars before making a decision as to what follow action should be taken. But in this case, we'll have a more rapid every 2-bar transposition, every 4-bar transposition. What do I mean by transposition? Well, I'm going to drop a random on there. And let's make it bi-directional. And let's set the chance. I said 7s, right? Okay. Nice and meditative tone with this 3 scale distance here. And there we go. At the start of the next 2-bar phrase, it transposed. And what I want to do now is go ahead and grab one of our X relay devices, yeah? Because this allows me to flexibly route the MIDI to, in this case, the pattern engine. See, I want it to transpose along with the meld, but before the chord. And if I do this via Live's built-in in-out routing matrix, I can select to receive MIDI from the meld, but I only have 2 options, the pre-effects or post-effects, and that's not quite sufficient in this situation. So I'm going to grab that X relay and drop it between the random and the chord, and set it to relay mode so that it's going to send on bus 1 is fine. Okay. Great. And now I can grab another instance of X relay and leave it in node mode where it's going to receive also on that relay 1 bus. And now it's set to receive MIDI in, so it should transpose along with the next change. Nice. Okay, so it's pretty low down there. I might decide to go and experiment with bring that up an octave. Let's see, we can change it later if need be. But okay, we're harnessing that randomized transposition to keep these 2 tracks kind of meshed together in a useful way. And what I want to do now is grab, let's just go ahead and take the expression control. And what I like to do, you know, I could use my own MIDI sample and hold for this, but that only generates 1 value, which is great for taking that same value and applying it to multiple things. But what I want to do is generate 5 different random values with each new note on coming in here. So that's why I'm using the expression control. It generates a random value with the note on, right? And it's going to generate 5 different values, because what I want to do is map this first one, stay on top of the ordering here, to the shift here. That's way too much. Set it to bipolar, so it'll go above or below, and set it to a smaller amount, 23%. Same deal here, 23%, and map it to this other shift. And yeah, let's go ahead and apply some curvature to these so that they're going to skew a little more to lower values and not go quite so high. So the randomized chord shifts will be clustered closer to the incoming root. And then why not? Just because we can. It'd be cool if there was a way to copy modulator configurations without the mapping, of course, from one expression control source to another. But anyway, I digress, as I often do. Let's map this to the strum amount, in fact. So each time it's just going to give it a little bit more of an organic feel, with each chord being expressed a little less. Well, you know, with a long attack time, I don't know that we're going to necessarily perceive that. Okay, so that rough control definitely needs a little modulation. So let's get back into the meld for a moment. Going to use that LFO 1 that I configured and apply it to, yeah, I already have it on that rough amount. Let's just go ahead and get the bass values up a little higher. And then also, this is filter macro 2. Yeah, okay, good. Let's also map this negatively to this morphing amount. And give it a little spread, why not? And here's a little trick to save on CPU. I'm only using 2 shifts plus the incoming note, so I'm never going to need more than 3 voices. So just reducing down to the maximum voice count I'll ever use can help save a little bit on that end of things. Okay, I think I might do some more modulation to the meld later. I don't like how high some of that randomization is going. Maybe I'll reduce the choices a little bit. Okay. Yeah, it's coming together. It's ambient, it's generating. So we've got this interaction built in between the pads and the dub bass that are percolating along at a languid 77 BPM. And yeah, I think you know what, I will do one more little modulation here. I want to explore. Oh, it's sounding kind of, I need to bring the filter down is what needs to happen. I'm not loving all the chords. This is the problem with you know, generating everything. Sometimes it doesn't generate exactly what you're looking for, but I think maybe this next element will help. So I'm going to grab our LFO Pro, which I thought I had added here, but it seems to be missing. Oh, I know what's going on. It's not tagged for manifest audio. I'll fix that after class. So let's go to our step sequencer mode. And what this allows me to do, so I'm going to set it to 5 steps. And I'm going to set it to 5 possible values. So this, at 1,000, we get like this really, you know, granular, super fluid control of possible output parameter values. But I'm going to set it to a stepped distance of 5. So you can see now that as I adjust these, it's constrained to those steps. And so then I'm going to, well, let's randomize. Let's randomize them. Nah. Okay, the point is that by pre-configuring these, set it to 16th note and set it to a random selection. So every 16th note, it's going to choose a random one of these 5 values. So I've constrained the values that it can randomize to, and I'll map those to the filter. And I can, you know, add a little smoothing here. But, you know, it's a little too much. I think maybe 3 16th notes. And let's reduce the overall modulation amount. Maybe 5 16th notes. Trying to keep it musical without it going crazy. And so now I'll have one of these steps with a maximum amount of slew, meaning it's that one time it will fade up. So yeah, this is giving some dynamic change here. I want it on 5 16th notes controlling the step. And overall, it's a little bit much. Let's bring the bass filter down. Okay. Cool. I might harness that for some other elements later on. But yeah, I had this fun idea that I've been tinkering with for a while, which is that it could be cool to use some breakbeats in a unique way in this sort of ambient context. I wanted to see if I could sort of decontextualize these breaks. So I'm going to grab the break selection. Let's do breaks volume 3 for whatever reason. And what I'm going to do is select them all and drag them to a new track here and change the color, because I don't like that color. Why are they yellow? I don't want yellow drum breaks. It's not the mood. Okay, and now before I start triggering them, well, some of them are on warp. That always scares me. But let's make sure they're all warped, and hope that we don't get a spinning ball. And there we go. Okay, don't know what that was all about, but the first thing I want to do to or recontextualize these is select them all. No, just the drums, excuse me, and set them to the play once and stop with a very short transient envelope. Yeah, I'm trying to stick with 7s today. And so, cool, it's going to be very staccato little beats coming through. And then I think it would be cool to put a little spectral resonation on there. And it's going to, again, take this meld transposition. I'll just see what we can do getting it post effects from the meld. And then, last thing here, back in the clip view, is to turn them into a little follow action situation where they will play any other clip 100% of the time. Legato, meaning they'll pick up where the previous clip left off, remaining a little more rhythmically coherent, but I like to have them scooting around every 3 quarter notes instead of like a whole bar phrase. Alright, and it's being ambient, I'm probably going to throw a little hall reverb on there. Make sure the volume's down. Let's see how this is going to turn out. I'm waiting for our 4-bar, nice polite 4-bar launch quantization to kick in. Okay, so that's... That last one was clearly one of the unwarped weirdos. I like that some of them are going double time and some of them are going half time. Some of them are playing and then stopping. Oh, because I turned the warp off and on and then they lost their loop? Did the looping get disabled for them? Yeah, they all have different loop lengths. There we go. Let's turn the looping on and then, okay. There we go. Now we can play with the spectral resonator settings. And we want to keep it in tune, right? So maybe -12 could be cool. Okay, so in theory this is working great, but some of them are, this is what scared me when I said, oh no, some of them are unwarped. What that means is that they're not all going to necessarily play in time. Okay, these ones were working for me earlier in that other version I showed earlier, so let's just try these and try doing the same stuff to them. So follow action, other, unlinked, 3 beats, loop on, transient, short, envelope, try again. Maybe I should set this to 1 bar. Oh, I didn't set them to legato though. That's the problem. There we go. Oops. And set it to poly mode here. And now it's time to, of course, don't hate, modulate. Grab a little more LFO X Pro here. And let me actually group them to a rack, because what I like to do when I'm modulating volumes is, yeah, give myself a usable volume range, and just grouping into a rack automatically gives me that, because I've got the gain that won't go above 6, whereas a utility, for example, is going to be you know, going all the way up to plus 36 or whatever it is. I think, yeah, it's quite loud, and that could be disruptive. So yeah, I was thinking, let me just accelerate this so I can see the shape, because I want to, yeah, exactly. I'm going to use this to skew it down lower longer. Okay, and then I think let's go to our 1 bar times 4. Now, so now these are going to fade in. I think that drop is a little steep. Maybe a little smoothing can help make that. So yeah, I think a little filtration could be in order here as well. And yeah, maybe we can harness some of the other randoms here. Like, was this mapped? No, let's map that to maybe the shift, and maybe map this one to the stretch. That's probably going to sound crazy. I'm a little worried about that, but let's see. Okay, it's skewed a little too low down. Okay. I think just the volume on the pad's a little too much. And then another cool thing that could be fun to explore would be, okay, maybe mapping this also to the decay. Not by that much though, that's crazy. That's crazy. Maybe reduce the chain volume modulation as well. I think that stretch modulation is doing a little too much. Yeah. And then, yeah, you know, I think the volume's going up a little too high, so I'll just drop that down to -7. Get a little auto filter on there, and then for the final touch on these guys, what I want to do next is grab a little bit of our auto dubber, and this is going to probabilistically give us a minimum maximum dub throw, which I'm going to be very traditionalist and put on our dub delay there on send B with some smoothing, smooth it out. And now these are happening every quarter note 50% of the time. It's too often. I want that to be happening less frequently. So I'm just going to drop the probability of those down to 11% every third quarter note. So now it's just going to occasionally get sent to that dub. And now the pads, which I continue to wrestle with, are a little too filtered out. I think it's more a matter of the transposition pulling it down, actually. In fact, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and drop a little wander on our echo feedback. Okay, so I want this going like, yeah, 23.23 hertz on the feedback, and that's why I have the limiter after it. Might get a little gnarly, so I'm gonna drop the modulation amount down. And we can skew it up, right? We've got, no, that's the loop reset, offset. There we go. So we can ensure it stays at higher values. So when those breaks get sent to the dub, which maybe should happen a little more often, the feedback response of that echo will be shifting. And along with that, I'm going to grab a MIDI sample and hold here, triggered by the same randomized MIDI note. And we're going to go ahead and actually, yeah, so what I want to do is explore the choices. So similar to the resolution I showed on the LFO step sequencer, I can set this to just have 3 choices, because the choices I want it to select from on the echo, I want it to be 16th, 32nd, or 8th note. So I need to reduce the amount here. Okay, now you see as the echo time gets shorter and the feedback goes up, we get all this like, yeah, cool textural echo stuff. And maybe I'll give it a little bit. That doesn't make sense. Okay, so I think with the amount I reduced it to, yep. So it's just 3 values it can choose between now, triggered here by the randomized transposition of the meld pads, which, you know, I would probably spend a little more time on the meld pads themselves. I'm a little worried about that feedback creeping up. Just going to go ahead and drop that mod amount down a couple points. Don't want this to be the live stream where I damage anybody's hearing. And yeah, let's go ahead and add some seasonally appropriate sparkly bits here. Again, with the operator. Why brown? I don't understand the color logic here. I'm no color genius, but brown? Really? Okay. Let's go ahead and just add a coarse tuning here. And what I'm going to do is grab our trusty little ornamental generator, the pulse engine, and LOL. I think that's just rude. Let me just configure this. I'll pause it while I set it all up here. So what I want to do is take the notes in this case that are being transposed from the operator and go ahead and tell it to receive MIDI from operator. I'm going to call it bass. And I'm going to call this one sparkles. And okay, so it's receiving those notes. That's great. But I don't want us to actually hear them. So I'm going to have to set this to, yeah, I've already got it to solo mode. Good. If it were in blend mode and this were set to in, then we would actually hear them. Solo means it can hear and process them, but it's not going to output them. It's only going to output the generated notes, of which there are none because it's paused. So what I'm going to do is set it to receive those notes And I'll transpose them up a bit, because again, the job is to be sparkly. And we're going to set them to fill. So when there's not a bass note, it will generate some notes. And those notes are going to vary in rate. And this is the chance they will happen. And let's randomize the pitch a little bit. And give it some pitch decay so they fall in pitch. Hey, okay. That's a little much. Let's give it some decay on the length. And some decay on the velocity as well. And so, to counteract the descending motion from that negative pitch decay, I'm going to apply some positive LFO amount. So they're moving around, following a contour determined by this LFO, which, let's go ahead and synchronize it to like, let's do 7 bars. Okay. Something like that. Let's go ahead and dial this in a little further. Just want to, it's like more of a lead, right? So I want to give it some glide and set it down to single voice. And so now it's kind of, it's talking to the bass a little bit, or it's only jumping in when the bass is not. So all these things are sort of interacting a little bit. And that's why I put a limiter on the dub, as the feedback finally does, as a prophecy foretold, get a little bit out of control there. Dropping down the mod rate. Okay, you know. Play with fire and you might get burned. Yeah, sorry for that, gang. Okay, so now let's see. We've got these little sparkly bits sparkling around. Let's get a little random panning. Ooh, that's nice. Pan them a little bit more to one side, maybe. Skew them over. And let's give it some hold probability so that we occasionally get, yes, those glides happening. Okay. Maybe not that often the hold. We do want to do sparkly sometimes. There we go. But yeah, that little bit of glide gives it such a talkative quality. But then we could also harness this sample and hold for the coarse tuning amount. So every time this transposes, we'll get a different coarse tuning value. Give it a slightly different character on the FM. And yeah, let's go and just add some partials to this waveform, make it a little more unique. Oh yeah, okay, nice. And I'm just gonna bring the probability of these down a little bit because they're sounding good, but we don't want them happening all the time. So down to 23%. Okay. Now, one thing that could be cool, right, is maybe I want to control the balance between the bass and the sparkles, and we can do this probabilistically, right? Because what's determining the balance between them currently is how often the bass is playing, because the sparkles are only generated between those bass notes. So I can go ahead and use our chance engine just with the play control to reduce the number of notes output. which is going to increase the chance of the sparkles coming through. So that just gives me a little control to play around with if and when I want, maybe later on in our project. Yeah, love to see everyone tuned in, but really don't be shy in the chat. I'm always excited to interact, and if there are any questions that pop up, go ahead and drop them in there, fam. Yeah, so what can I do next here? I think one thing that could be really cool to get some interactivity going would be, you know, I had the exponder going on the other one that I showed you. So now we've got this, you know, autonomous system with these agents, these autonomous agents that are all sort of interacting here. With the exclusion of the drums, they're just kind of doing their own thing, although they're being influenced by the transposition of the meld, let's not forget. And maybe I'll bring the transposition up. They're a little too low. And the sparkles are holding a little too long. Seems like we might have a stuck note. Sometimes, yeah, operator. There we go. Have to flush the buffer. Okay, what was I saying? Oh yeah, let's get some interactivity going on. So a really easy way to do that would be with audio input. You know, anyone can just say stuff into a mic and get stuff happening. So I'm going to go ahead and just set that up with my mic, which is connected right now. And I'm just going to mute it because I'm going to harness this for MIDI purposes. So there's our little X-Translate, converting my audio into MIDI in real time. And let's go ahead and just give ourselves a little wavetable for that, maybe. And let's go ahead and tell it to receive MIDI from that audio track, right? It sees the X-Translate there. And then, of course, we need to set it to in. And let me go here and just kind of transpose it up. There we go. Yes. It's a little cluttery. So I think I'll go ahead. A little spicy on the volume there. I think I'll turn the quantization on. Keep it to 16th notes. And yeah, there we go. So, you know, we don't have time for too intricate of a sound design session, but I'll just mellow out the attack a bit, give it some noise unison, and then what I like to do with this wavetable is, you know, go to the MIDI, and it's got a built-in random modulator, so I'm just gonna apply that to the position. Going to randomize the it's getting pretty breathy with that noise unison on there. I don't know about all that, but so the way I had this set up, in fact, and you know, I could sort of use a chance engine as well to sort of gate some of the MIDI notes out. I could also just actually bring the threshold up here, so it's only going to take the loudest parts of my voice, so when I'm talking more quietly it won't necessarily output anything. We could also reduce the sensitivity, for example, and dial in the frequency range. But yeah, that's kind of adding a nice little dimension. Pan a little bit left because I know I had the sparkles panned right. And I'm just going to rename this X input. And yeah, okay. Give it a little save. And now getting too many held notes there. Just trying to avoid that. Okay. Yeah, I think that's fine for the wavetable for now. Like I mentioned, this isn't going to be such a sound design intensive session. We just don't have time for that. But we've got some interactivity. Anyone next to your laptop mic or whatever, if they start making noise, is triggering this wavetable synth now. And yeah, could use a little more massaging, but that's a quick way to get it interactive. And to add another layer of interactivity to that, and to create another dynamic sort of agent response here, I want to try and grab Exponder, and I'm going to put it into listen mode, and I'm going to set it to receive MIDI from the same X input channel, and set it to in. Yeah. And now I'm going to grab a drift, and when I stop talking, it's going to start generating notes to the drift based on the notes it received from my voice. But once I talk again and it starts receiving notes that are above the threshold, then it should stop. Yeah, okay, there we go. Well, it's waiting for silence. I feel like X-Translate just stopped sending because the wavetable wasn't getting anything either. Huh. What's going on here? Oh, I see. The floor is the problem. There we go. The floor was gating out too much. It really relies on lower root note frequencies, so I run into problems that way. Okay, but the drift should be stopping when I talk. Let me give it a longer wait time. Knock it off, pal. Oh, I see what's going on. It's receiving the same MIDI the wavetable is, and it's making all these nice notes when I talk. But what I wanted to do is to generate notes between my phrases. So again, I have to set it to a solo mode. So now it's properly going to wait, and then politely only generate in between my phrases. Okay, so let's make this a more better sounding drift. I'm not so thrilled with the current situation. Just give it a power chord, an octave down at least. Lower the density. It's playing too often. Give it a little autonomy to explore some notes other than what I input with my voice. Yeah, okay. That's starting to work. Yeah. Something like this. Intensity got too low. Okay, that's getting closer to what I'm looking for. It's getting a little too pretty. We're gonna add some other like weird textural stuff there. Oh, it's the wavetable. This is the pretty part. Yeah, we gotta detune it. It's a little bit too nice. Let's get some FM on there and something like this. Is that helping? No, it's still down too low. And then we can detune them. And then, yeah, maybe. Let's go ahead and monify this. There we go. Yeah, maybe. Let's try like this. Yep. Okay, so back to the drift. I want a little chance engine on there as well to control the velocity a little bit. I want some velocity randomization, maybe a little octave randomization. And I'm going to harness that newly randomized velocity by assigning it to the filter here in drift. So it's just going to make it a little more expressive. It's way too loud. That's the other big problem here. Feel free to wow, some intense feedback there in the chat, huh? Okay, yeah, so there's a velocity here. Gonna get that all dialed in. And then wavetable's a little corny, but again, I think a lot of these sounds would benefit from some general, fine tuning. But we got this system here that's just kind of, it's doing its thing. I'm giving it some input, but it's chugging along. I think one thing that could be fun would be maybe to actually use the vocal texture. I'm going to do that with a little bit of the old pitch loop 89, thanks to Mr. Henke himself. Let's make it all the way wet before I unmute. That's better. Ha. Little feedback. Yes. Something like that. Just randomizing the position and trying to make sure things keep changing. And that's gonna be a little more dynamic. Yeah. Okay. There we go. Something like this. Yeah, so now let's go and bring the volume way down. What was I doing there? Okay. Let's, now that that's reined in, grab some spectral resonation. And again, I think I'm going to harness that from our meld. And, transpose that down an octave, maybe. Oh, set it to poly, so it's getting the chords. Yeah, now turn it up a bit. Okay. This is it's a whole universe unfolding here. All right. So, what else can we do here? Yeah, I think maybe I'll do a little more pitch modulation from the chance engine on the drift. Should give it some strum. No, but you never know till you try. Let's try a different waveform on here, in fact. I want to sense more reverb on it. I think what's happening, yeah, I'm going to just go ahead and give it its own reverb. I think it's earned that much. There we go. And let's go ahead and set it to... I do like a prism, but I think shimmer is more what I'm going for here. Let's go all the way algorithm. Yeah, let's put a pre-algorithm. Ha! Listen to all those little things chirping away in there. Okay, what happened to the chords? Just disable the input so it'll just start playing. Right? Well, that's odd. It should be. Okay, there we go. It's getting stuff now, and then if I turn it off, yeah, now it's chugging away. So I can dial in that reverb. Okay, yeah, that'll do. Drop it back down and put it back into its little interactive mode there. And let's see. Okay. Whoa. No. Whoops. What's going on here? Strange. Yeah. It's starting to sound nice, though. And the vocals just going through those really cool pitch and spectral resonation. That's what I want to do. Let's go ahead and drop a little spectral time on there as well. Get it in retrigger with a low sensitivity. And yeah, let's see how is this sounding. Yeah. What about now? Are we even hearing much? Let's get it all the way wet so we can really test it out. maybe, let me hear it without the resonator. How are we going here? Yep. I think maybe it would have to be before the pitch 89 to really be useful. It's getting quite a lot coming through, right? If I turn the sensitivity down, yeah, the light's not flickering, so I want high sensitivity, I guess. Yep. That'd be a whole other lesson here. Maybe I'll turn the delay off. Something like that. Okay, so if you wanted to control more of this stuff together, it might be useful to, you know, have just a single knob or two set up so that you could quickly just sorry guys, the voice is just having that little moment of cognitive confusion where your own voice is throwing everything into disarray. Okay, yeah, what was I saying? Yes, I want to control many of these parameters now with a single knob, so I'm going to go and see where is, yes, X Control Pro. So this is basically going to give me a single macro knob that can be mapped to a bunch of things. So let's go and say, like, let's map it to the chance engine there. So I've got on my master channel, and so there it's going to get mapped to that play amount. And the thing is, I wanted it 100% to really have true control here. So there we go. All right, what else do I want to map this to for density purposes? Let's go ahead. And this is kind of just thinking about this. I think I want to map it in a opposite direction to the pulse amount on the pulse engine there. Let's see. And oh, here's a incredible trick when you're working with developing these complex systems. As they become more complicated, it becomes more and more difficult to remember what a parameter was mapped to be modulated by. So when you see the modulation dot there indicating the modulation amount, or that it's being modulated, rather, you can right-click the context menu and go to Show Modulation Source. This is indispensable when you're dealing with a lot of parameters being modulated by a lot of things, and it's hard to keep track of them. It'd be cool if they had a modulation mapping browser. But anyway, that's a good enough shortcut right there. So now, this is going to, right, I said I wanted this to go in the opposite direction. So it's going to reduce the bass amount and increase the sparkle amount. Okay, so I'm going to group this to a rack, because what I actually want to do is map that to a macro that I can rename. So I'm going to call this bass sparkle or whatever. So leave that in the middle. And then I can add another X Control Pro here and go ahead and map this to some other parameters elsewhere in the set and eventually just basically build up this one rack that's going to control everything. So you don't need to go diving around inside all the racks and whatnot that you've got going on in here. And you know, would I record this as an album? Maybe not, but it's a fun little realm to exist in. What else can I map here? Maybe let's go ahead and let's control the frequency of the auto filter. Yeah, because I want to sort of pull these out of the mix, but I don't want to do it with the volume. And so let's do -100, -77. See where that brings it at 100. I'm trying to sort of cross-reference here. So 100, that's 77. Oh, I do need it to go positive. So plus 77. Yeah, that's way up there. Okay, cool. And now it should be, yeah, at the... Right, okay, so... No, I need it unipolar, that's the thing. Okay, there we go. That should do it, right? If I bring this down now, yeah, okay, perfect. Sweet, unipolar does the trick, so now I can call this drum filter, and so I can just kind of pull those out filtrationally, so to say, and let's do the density of the drift, I think. And again, I'm just gonna grab that. And you know, we could do all kinds of other stuff in here if we wanted to. I don't think we need all that pitch modulation. We've already got pitch stuff happening in here. And then I think I definitely want to be able to pull the vocals out. So that's maximum density. So map that to macro 4. No, whoops. Macro 3. Chord density. And then, yeah, I think I have two other parameters I know I want to work with here. The vocals, what if I put the resonator up an octave while they're pitching down from the pitch loop? Interesting. Anyway, I think the point is to control their volume, yes. Go ahead and map that. Yeah, we'll just go to the overall output. Keep it unipolar. Yep. Okay. Yeah, that's working. Maybe we could to actually map that on off to get the stuck note flushed. And yeah, we're almost there. Vox amount. Amount, please. There we go. And then what else? Oh yeah, the pads and the wavetable. Volumes? Yeah, why not? And the point of doing this with X control is that I'm giving myself one sort of control unit here, you know? Yeah. And so, yeah, there's obviously a lot more sound design work could be done here. Wouldn't say it's totally dialed in. Especially the pads. Okay, that's nice, minimizing it a bit. And then, yeah, I just want to be able to control the wavetable. Let's do it with the density amount. Let's do it with the chance engine so that we're not adjusting volume, but we're adjusting chance. And yeah, you might want to have been renaming these X controls as you go along here. And let's do yeah, unipolar. And then, does this make sense? Yeah, so there we go. Now they're happening. Wavetable chance. Oh, I gotta assign it first. Natürlich. And there we go. Now I don't have to look at any of this. I've got my 6 controls that I need. And yeah, bring some chords back in. Make it more sparkly. Get some drums back in. Just kind of play around with these to taste. So that's it. Generative, ambient, ecosystem, world building, whatever you want to call it.